next, okay? Okay, we'll see what's about to happen next.
Oh my gosh, welcome everyone to the YNCN Podcast. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah,
You've been such good hosts.
Oh my goodness, stop it. Or don't. That's okay. But no, I was going to say, for a little warm-up question, let's do, what's the last book you read?
Oh my God, that is a good question.
And we've already been in school, so I get if you're like, yeah, I don't remember.
Like the last time I read was like grade 7.
Yeah.
I think the last book I read was The Lighthouse Witches.
Oh, I feel like
it's really good. It's like a sort of like gothic horror set in Scotland, I think. It's like a little Scottish island.
Yeah.
It was really cute. I really like it. So
oh my gosh.
I would actually recommend that one. It was really good.
Done and done on the book list.
It's on the list.
Oh, absolutely.
Get your plumber awards.
PBR.
I was also gonna say, just so like everyone knows more about you, maybe say a little bit about yourself and your like university journey.
Yes. So I am a Mech 2T2. I started out in NSci actually in first year though, and then failed and they invited me to leave.
Yes.
So I joined Mech and then I loved it.
They invited me to leave.
Yeah, they invited me to leave. And Mech was so much better for me, so I'm glad that they did invite me to leave.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've done UTAT, which is the University of Toronto Aerospace team. For all of my years. Also Skule Nite as well, which is the engineering musical. Yeah. And I've been in the band for that because I play violin. Also been in some like orchestras and stuff over my time with violin mainly. And yeah, that's kind of me.
Just an absolute like queen in front of us. No biggie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. And like crazy, just some like facts about your involvements is you were like the first female UTAT executive director and the second female musical director for Skule Nite.
Yeah.
Like how, like when you hear those things, like how does that make you feel? Like what is that?
Pressure.
Yeah. Oh, no, understandable. Yeah.
It is a lot of pressure. I mean, when you're the first anything in any field, it's a lot of pressure because you're representing 100% of that group. So when you're the first woman in, a director position, you're representing all women in director positions for that team, right? So it's like it is a lot, and it can be overwhelming for sure. And it's also, I feel like another thing is like shocking too in a lot of ways.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. When I heard them, I was like, oh.
Yeah, like the fact that someone who's literally the first.
I know.
Like that's kind of crazy. Like thinking about how far engineering has come, and yet still there's like, such a gap in like leadership, especially.
For sure.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy.
I mean, and obviously so completely understandable how like that is like really stressful and like something that like is kind of hard to navigate, but you're doing it so well and you're making it look so good.
Stop.
Just thought you should hear that.
Thank you. I don't hear it enough.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I also know you did your PY.
Yes,
I did.
You want
to talk about that experience, like the company you worked with?
Yeah. So my PY, I did it last year at Celestica. So they're like an electronics manufacturer. So I did a project management role actually, which was really cool. I really enjoyed that. So I do mechanical, but I didn't do a technical role. And it was actually really nice because doing project management, they can give you a lot more responsibility than they would be able to give in a technical role for someone who's just starting out as an intern. So what was really nice was I actually got to lead teams of engineers, and I didn't even have to ever introduce myself as an intern. So no one knew I was an intern the whole year. Everyone who I worked with, my last day, they were like, oh, it's Katie's last day, and everyone, oh, you're going to another company? And I was like, no, I'm going back to school.
Oh my God.
Wow. Like, no one knew. I just never introduced myself as an intern.
It was an inside job.
Yeah. I tricked you. And I would use it sometimes. I would be like presenting things like templates, and then I'd be like, but this template isn't that great. It was made by some intern at corporate. And then people were like, meaning myself.
You're like,
I was like, some loser intern at corporate made this. That's why it's really bad, guys.
No. Oh my gosh. That's why. Yeah. So, like, was it just like when you would like lead these teams, you were just like kind of organizing their schedules and stuff, or like leading discussions regarding like the projects they were working on?
Yeah, it was keeping on top of deliverables for the project.
Gotcha,
so just like checking in on things on like action logs and Gantt charts, and just like comparing, making sure that we're staying on schedule. If we're not, that it's being communicated with the customer.
Yeah.
Because Celestica works with customers to like they build electronics for different applications, so in different fields and stuff. So I mainly worked in the smart energy sector and the health tech sector.
Okay.
And I kind of talked about the specifics of those, but yeah, so it was mostly meetings like that where I was just checking in on the different teams to see how they were doing on things.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I learned to be more quiet over my PUI.
Really?
Because I feel like I feel like you're similar to me,
yeah.
like this stuff. we talk a lot.
Yeah.
And I find I always feel the need to sort of fill gaps with
yeah.
speech, just like saying random things.
One of my fears was silence when I was younger.
Yeah, it is a fear. I'm like, why hasn't anyone spoken
Like, why
for
are we
like
speaking to
10
each other?
seconds? Wow, this must be awful. You guys must hate me. Like sometimes people just are slower and just are more quiet.
Are comfortable in silence.
Yeah,
working on it.
Yeah, and the PUI it did teach me that, because it was my friend as someone who didn't know as much as the other people in these meetings. Mm-hmm. If I stayed quiet, people would try and fill that in. So it sort of like it elevated my status a bit almost in these meetings, where if I was unsure of something, I would just kind of go, and then someone would go, or I could show you this other thing, or maybe this is what you want. And they start trying to, because they sense that like maybe it's they sort of realize what their gaps are, and they start filling that in because they think that you figured it out.
Oh my god.
That was my little trick. Stay quiet, and then people will fill in the gaps for you. And then I learned a lot more than they would have given me if I had asked sort of more specific questions, I found.
Yeah.
How did you discover that though? Just one time you're accidentally like, oh, and then they're like, oh my gosh, magic power.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was my supervisor, Darren, who taught me a lot of that, because he's very comfortable in silence. So he will sit in meetings, you'll ask a question, and he'll just sit there for a full minute. And then he'll go, okay. And he'll really it's really uncomfortable.
That sounds nerve-wracking.
But it's like a power move. Like it gives
really
you,
is. It really is. It shows confidence.
Yeah,
I feel like it does.
Yeah. And then he actually even told me and some of the other interns as well, like at the beginning, he said like his biggest piece of advice is to never feel pressured to say something in any situation. He said you don't have to. Like you never have to speak. So if someone, even if they're asking something, if you have nothing to say, you don't have to say anything. And I was like, interesting.
That is such a powerful mindset. I feel like even like on my PY, I felt like I was like, there were questions I obviously didn't know the answer to, but I just felt like I needed to say something no matter what. And you're right. Like sometimes that can get you into like deep water. Like it can get you into like, right? Because you're not saying, you're not educated on the topic, so it's hard to like provide a sufficient answer.
Exactly.
But oh my god, I'm gonna take notes during this.
I know you have to. It's hard. You have to practice though, because it doesn't come natural. Well, I guess maybe to some people.
I was gonna say.
I don't know. Apparently, not to me.
Yeah.
It didn't for me either. I remember we talked about this one time, like with Frosh. It was like, oh my gosh, if there's silence, like I'm gonna tweak. But actually, my therapist was the one who helped me get over that. He would give me short answers. Yeah. And then he would acknowledge how awkward it was for me. Mm-hmm. And then he'd be like, but we're here together. And I'm like, okay. So after that, I don't know. It doesn't bother me as much anymore. Yeah. But I guess it's like you really have to be exposed to it for so often. Yeah. That was not English. But often to be like, to be, thank you.
I got it.
To be like, I finally am over that. Yeah. But it is really hard. But out of curiosity, what made you want to apply for PM over a technical role? Because I know a lot of people will dive into that technical role first and like accept that.
That's a good question. I honestly don't know. I wasn't going to do PUI. At the beginning, my original plan was just do 4 years, get your degree, and then work. Yeah. Like that was my mindset. I was like, I'll have the summers to do things. Yeah. I don't need to do a PUI in the middle. It'll mess up the flow. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest two things were COVID. Because things were still uncertain. I didn't necessarily want to end my, university career online if that was how it was going. Yeah. And also just the fact that so many people do it. Like I honestly kind of chose to do PUI because I wanted to be with all of my like peers that I've gone through all 4 years with. So I was like, I don't want to just go into a year with no one that I know and then have all my, friends do PEY and then come back. So that was honestly, I applied to things really late.
Oh. Okay.
And I did apply to some technical roles, but I genuinely didn't get the best energy from some of the technical roles I applied to. There was a lot where it felt like you were having to jump through a lot of hoops just to get sort of considered for roles. So some of those I felt I sort of got turned off early on, where I felt like I put a lot of effort in and time, and then you'd get feedback that, oh no, everything you did was correct, but we were just looking for someone to go that extra step, and it seemed like they were sort of constantly looking for someone to be sort of like kid genius type who's gonna be like,
who solved the world's problems.
So I kind of early on just got sort of in bad energy. And then whereas with some of the more project management roles, like the people that I was talking to, they seemed to be just a bit more understanding of students and like respectful of your time. And the other thing was the opportunity to have a broader view of things. Because a lot of the technical roles would be, oh, you're gonna edit this code for this very specific machine in our company, and that's sort of what you're working on. That'll be your baby. Which is great, like if you really like doing that. But with project management, they're saying, oh, you're gonna work across all the sectors. You'll get a bunch of different projects, and you'll be kind of getting an overview of all the teams. And that really interested me because I don't have one specific thing that I want to do right now. So I wasn't interested in getting sort of pigeonholed for a whole year. So I really wanted the opportunity to actually see the different fields, like the different engineering roles in a project.
That was very smart.
You get that like perspective.
Exactly.
I feel like that would be something that I would definitely want to do as my next step, because I agree that it was kind of like, because it's definitely cool to like have any experiences is awesome, sure. But you're like, I feel like with the high level experience you do get to taste like a little bit of everything.
For sure.
And even like I wanted to ask you, like, what has your experience been with like application processes and like interviewing, like how do you approach those things, and like how have they been for you?
Oh, nerve-wracking.
No, definitely.
Honestly, for PEY, I mean, I feel like, and I've been talking to a lot of people about PEY lately, like people who are applying to things now and people who are already stressed about it because they're in their third year and they have PEY next year. I applied so late, and because I didn't want to do it. And then once I got to third year, I was like, oh, I'll do it. And I missed the deadline in September to sign up for the portal. I was like, I'll get it in January. No worries. I'll catch it next time. So I genuinely didn't join the portal until January. Didn't apply to things till maybe March. But honestly, like my advice to anyone is don't apply to like 70 positions. You're going to get positions. And the thing is, like, you should only be applying to things that you really want, because what's going to happen is you're going to get roles, and you're going to feel pressure to accept roles because you're going to have that uncertainty in your head. What if I don't get another role? I should accept the first one that's given to me, or the second one maybe, because you want to lock things down and you see everyone around you locking things down. And I would say it's you're always going to be able to find any role if that's what you want. So if you get to June, even like June or July, you can start a PEY in September. You can get any role in June or July. So wait until you're really at crunch time to actually just try and find a role that'll, take you. But until then, just apply to things that you really want, and you'll probably get at least one job that you really want.
For sure, yeah.
Because it's not worth it. It's not worth it doing the applications, doing the interviews if you're not interested. And people can tell as well. Like I did, I applied to a consulting job actually, and it was just because I liked the energy that I was getting from their website, and I watched like a video.
So good. Yeah,
the vibes were good. I was like, I'm just gonna apply to this. I didn't want to do consulting. But I just applied to it. But we had a bunch of interviews, and then we just had like a really good moment where they said, I don't think I can tell that you're not really interested in this. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right, but I really like you guys. And they ended up giving me like contacts in the aerospace field and stuff, because they are trying to help me out with like future career stuff. So people respect that, and they can always tell if you're not super interested in something. It always comes through. So I think just be honest with yourself and with people like that as well. Like we had a conversation, and then now they're a great contact for me, and there's no bad blood or anything.
I am such a firm believer that like number one, recruiters are people, like everyone's a person, and that like being authentic is the most like, I think it's the best thing you could do, right? Like in interviews, like I try to be as transparent as I can, obviously like still professional, but still like you want to like show who you are and like who they might be working with. I feel like that's been advice that I've given to a lot of third years that are entering their PYs that are like, I don't know how to interview, and I'm like, you know how to have a conversation though, and that's what an interview is. It's a conversation. So like I definitely agree that like when and now look like like that's a great resource for you moving forward. Like it's just about being transparent, and that was the best for you too, because then you would have been in a job where like maybe you wouldn't have enjoyed it as much, you know.
Exactly.
The
really other thing is marks. Like that was a big thing for me that I was scared of. Because I literally failed first year. So I went into PUI and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to do the spiel for like every single interview where I'm going to have something prepared. These were the circumstances of my first year. And this is why that happened. And I remember the first interview that I got, the guy was talking. There's a couple things in this interview that really, brought my guard down after that and made me a little bit less scared. The first thing though was that he went at one point, oh, so about your academics, and he was sort of pulling up files and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah. And then he just looked down and he went, never mind, no issues. And he just sort of kept going. He was like, let me just check on this. Oh, no, it's fine. And then I kind of went, do you want to like talk about my first year marks? I was like,
you like bring it up.
I was like, I can talk about it.
Yeah, you're like, it's okay. It's been long enough. Like, I'm okay to talk about it.
And all I was like, I can talk about it without crying, I think. But he just went, oh no, like everyone's marks look like that from first year. I was like, really? That bad?
Wow.
God, okay. But yeah, generally he was like, oh no, it's fine. The other thing that happened in that one was at one point he went, what is mechanical engineering? And I was like, oh shoot, that's such a hard question. Oh my God. Okay, wait, what is this? Is this guy gonna judge me? And then I think he saw that I was kind of like freaking out. And he went, no, I'm a finance guy, so I just genuinely don't know. I was like, oh, okay, that's different then.
You're like,
I thought he was trying to like understand how much I knew, and I got really freaked out, and he was just like, oh no, I don't know, like we have engineers, but I'm just like the finance guy, so I don't actually know how that works. He was like a CFO or something though. He was like really high up, so I was scared. Gosh. But he was like, no, I just genuinely don't know what it is.
I would literally be like, yeah, no, that's such a good open stepper tab. Type in mechanical engineering.
Google mechanical engineering definition. Mechanical engineering is the practice of.
That's what I would have been like. I love like sometimes like, and I feel like in interviews like, it's important to kind of like have things to like help you formulate thoughts. So like I'll be like, wow, that is so interesting. Like I speak very slowly. There's a lot of pauses in between. I'm like, I've never been asked that before. And then I'm like, but here's how I would answer. Like then you like formulate a like I try to have my own little, you know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like that's important.
The worst is I find for me the worst is forgetting to listen. I feel like that happens to me so much.
Gosh. When people introduce themselves, their name, and you're like, what is their name?
You're like thinking about what your answer might be. Yeah, you're thinking about. I remember in one of my interviews, they were explaining if like I got the position, what it would entail. Oh yeah. And after the interview finished, I was like, oh no, when did they say I was start? Like I forgot literally everything. Like it was, and it was all the important stuff too. And I remember getting in the offer and it being like, so as long as you like are okay with everything we said at the beginning, and I was like, I was like, yes, if you could just like have it in writing, that'd be great. Like not knowing, I couldn't agree more.
I just want it in writing.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm a contract person. I was wondering. But no, that's such an excellent point. I totally agree. In those like stressful situations, it's so easy to be like, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. Why do I have to listen to like, the
question?
Yeah. And you can ask people to repeat things. Like just ask. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that I also, on my PEY, I actually helped with the interviews for the next round of interns.
Oh, wow.
So we did, the way that my supervisor did it was he would run interviews and then he'd have like one of the previous interns come back and just go on there for the last 10 minutes and he would hop off so that the interviewee could ask the like previous intern questions without the boss being there. So they could like get the genuine like just from the intern, what is this actually like? So I think it was really nice. Like being interviewed, having that was really nice because he literally leaves the call. So you have no pressure. And then
awesome.
it was really good as an intern doing that because it was just interesting seeing all the applications and all the interviews. Because it's interesting what sets you apart.
Yeah.
Because so many
Yeah.
people have, like, they have their design team experience.
yeah.
They have, like, solid marks. They maybe did, you know, a hackathon or something. Like, they've done, like, sort of these things. And then there's, you know, one of the people we interviewed, you know, he managed a restaurant. And it was like, oh, this is different. And it's something where you maybe don't think, oh, my God, I have, like, a part-time job at a restaurant over the summer. And, you know, that's not engineering related. That's
Yeah.
nothing. But genuinely, we saw that and we went, oh, well, he worked as a manager, so he's had to deal with difficult people. Like, he's had to have hard conversations, manage a team. It's not engineering, but it's
So applicable.
people.
Yeah.
And that's really the people part is what's really hard about, you know, with companies, with
Yeah.
any company. You need people who can work with other people.
Oh my goodness. I was saying this again, like we had that like resume hackathon and I was trying to like really spread how like important soft skills are. Like I think they really go under the radar when you're in a program like engineering because you feel like there is that such heavy emphasis on academics. But when in most of my interviews, it's been like, well, like tell me about who you are as a person and like tell me about like how you work in a team. I feel like I have never, I mean, to be fair, I haven't had a proper technical interview, I guess.
Me neither.
They've kind of right, like they've all kind of been like behavioral questions.
Yeah.
But still, like in those situations, they're like looking for how you interact, like what skills are transferable from your extracurriculars even. Like I know people that have been like, oh, well, like, what do you do outside of school? And, like, now I'm in these clubs, right? But I remember in first year I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, because you're just trying to
school.
Yeah, I'm like, what else is there? But no, yeah, like, I completely agree that, like, it's important to have those things that are transferable. And even if, like, you yourself are like, oh, like, I don't have those, like, internships that related to engineering. I totally agree that they're, like, all your experiences are unique. And I don't think anything is, like, a waste, you know?
Yeah, keep up your hobbies. People are interested in that. And you connect with people on different things, you know? Like I do music, and it's like if you meet with someone who also plays music, even just casually, people get really excited about that. They get really excited. They go, oh, I started learning the guitar last year. It's like, oh, that's so cool, you know? What music are you into? And it's those other things that set you aside, and then you remember those conversations, like people want connections and people want to like the people they're working with. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People change people. You want to like, you want in an interview. I remember I worked at a daycare for like 3 years, and in my interview, the person was like, I had 3 kids under 3. How did you do it? And that was their opening question. They were like, I saw you worked at a daycare, and like, you need to tell me about it. It was such a genuine conversation for like maybe 10 minutes. And then he's like, oh, I forgot about that this was an interview. Yeah. Because you get carried away and like just being two people talking. Yeah. And like you said, like that can set you apart. Yeah. Just being like present and in the moment and like genuine and listening and actually like being full circle.
Yeah, we're coming back.
But no, yeah, like, oh, no, sorry. I completely agree with all that.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Anything that he said that they look for in interviews that you were kind of like, oh, I never thought about that before?
Ooh, that is a good point. There was something about like the questions that people would ask. He would always ask me what they asked me, just to like check in. He said, you know, I didn't have to share everything if I didn't want to, but just if there was anything sort of interesting that stood out.
Yeah.
Because it was sort of one of those things where sometimes people were just sort of asking like, you know, what days do you start, like what time do I actually have to show up to work, things like that, which is like all fair things to ask.
Yeah. You're asking like another person.
Yeah, but you know, when you're asking more about, you know, the projects, like what types of projects are there? What types of projects did you get to work on? What's available to me? Like people who are actually interested in the application, that really stood out. Like people who seem genuinely interested, and being honest about what you're interested in, not just what you think they want you to be interested in, is a big thing as well. Because sometimes anyone can go on there and say, oh, I saw on your website that you make PCBs, and I'm really interested in PCBs because of, you know, this, and I think it's, and you can tell when someone's not being genuine about what they're interested in. So you can say that you're interested in something totally different, but you want to learn about this, be honest about that, you know? Yeah. So I think like that was something that he mentioned. You know, you can tell when people aren't being genuine.
Mm-hmm. One thing, I was actually talking to the person who interviewed me for my PY, and he mentions the same thing. It's interesting how the questions are like a big indicator as to how interested you are. Because I remember on TikTok, there was like something where it was like, you should ask the question, what are some doubts that you have about hiring me? And like people actually took that advice. Yeah. But he was like, if someone were to ask me that, he's like, is there a reason why I shouldn't hire you? Why are you not confident in your abilities? And it was like, I didn't interpret it that way because I thought it was like a decent question, like, you know, to kind of show, you know, really like be honest and try and show that you are. Grow. But then it was like on the flip side that he thought of it as like a self-confidence issue. Yeah. So I was like, damn, those questions are like really a big deal. So preparing them is kind of important. That's interesting.
But yeah, I feel like asking more information about, you know, what you'd actually be doing is always a good one. Like you want to, because you should know also for yourself. Like you shouldn't be just desperate for someone to hire you. Yeah. You should be making it clear that you want to be interested in it. So ask for yourself, like, what am I actually going to be doing day to day in the role? What actual projects am I going to be working on? Because I know you do this wide range, but what's available next year that I would be doing? Yeah. Because that's, you know, that's the actual sort of meat of it. And then you can also decide. It's also helpful for you. You want to know what you're actually going to be doing, right? You know? Yeah. And you should only be doing roles that really do interest you. Even if it's not something that you're comfortable with. If it's something you want to learn, that's just as valuable, you know?
And like now, like, more of like a segue, like a kind of like looping back. You had said
snowballing off that.
Tobogganing, if you will.
Just piggybacking off that point.
Just one sec. But no, I was gonna say you mentioned that you like had made that connection like for aerospace that like other companies that you had like interviewed with. Like, would you say aerospace is like a dream job for you, or like?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. What is your dream job?
I don't really know right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sort of in an interesting phase where I'm not sure if I want to stick with engineering or maybe with arts. But my answer is also sort of both. Because I think that you don't have to do any one. I know that you don't have to do any one thing for your whole life. For sure. I'm gonna just destroy your name right now. I think the whole career idea is just. Phony. Like, it's totally fake.
How should we change the C then?
It should be your next curriculum network. No,
your next coping mechanism. Just snowballing here.
Just snowballing.
Just spitballing. But I mean, I think there's a lot of talk about, you know, what career path you're gonna have. You know, what's your dream? What are you gonna do for your life? You know, you finish school and then where are you gonna start and then where is it gonna lead you? And that's all important. But I think it puts a lot of pressure, and you think, you know, oh my God, I have to, especially coming out of high school, you're, you know, 17 and you're deciding what program to do. You don't know what anything really means. And then you're expected to go into that and then go into a similar job and stay with that for your whole life. Sometimes that works for people. Sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. I personally changed my mind a lot, and I know that. And I used to try and sort of push against that and like fight that and say, okay, but am I going to be interested in this in like a year from now or a couple of years from now? But it doesn't matter. You should follow what you like now. And, you know, as long as you're being smart about it, like for me, I'm finishing my degree. You know, that was one of the things I wanted to make sure. I want to finish my engineering degree because I still do love engineering and I might want to do that in the future. But right after I finish, I want to explore the arts more, specifically acting and directing. I'm really interested in for film. So that's what I want to do right after. So I won't be doing engineering right away when I graduate. I know that for sure, but it'll be there. I'll have my degree and I can always come back to it. And maybe I do arts for a few years and then go into engineering and then, you know, come back to arts. You never know. And I think that you just have to, I think you should make sure that you're enjoying what you're doing and that you're happy and you can just follow things right now. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't last long.
Oh, yeah. And I completely agree that there is no set path. There is no one way to get anywhere. Yeah. And that, like, life is all about, I think there's, like, a fact that, like, you change your career, on average, you change your career path 7 times. Yeah. Like, that was, like, something that a study found. And that's wild. Like, you think about that and you're like, oh my gosh, there's like the contrary thing being like, you have so much time, or like you only live once. Like, I feel like those are like very like, do you know what I mean?
Both scary.
Both can like
ways.
be had. Yeah. But I feel like I'm also like in the same boat. I feel like a lot of people, it's like, it's not talked about a lot, but you can go do a degree in engineering and then do something else after. Like, I'm also very interested in like looking more into like possibly screenwriting, or like just things in general that like involve the arts more. I would love to see more. I think I said this earlier. I don't want to like but like intersectionality between engineering and arts, because those are like, I think I would say my two passions. Like, I love learning, but I also think that the arts are so important, and to like find how to like combine those, it would be the coolest thing.
I know. And they've done more. Like, we have the music minor now, because that got introduced in our first year.
Yeah.
It was like brand new when we first joined. And it's like stuff like that, because there are so many people. I mean, even just, doing like, I'm in the Skule Nite band, and like there's stage band and other groups that I've like played with as well. And people are really talented. There's a lot of engineers who play really good music.
Yeah, because crazy thought, you can be smart and talented. Like, this is
Who knew? Yeah, I thought I was the only one.
Yeah, you were like, I thought I was Divergent or something. Mean? That's so crazy.
What do you mean, I'm not the chosen one? Okay.
But no, I like, even saying like back to like what you were talking about, like dream job and like paths and stuff, that like, like there's so many like ways that you can like look at life and like approach it, and like the different ways you go.
Yeah, and someone actually told me that when I think I was in grade 11. I went to a U of T engineering like open house thing, and I did grade 11, because I was very keen. I was very eager to learn about university programs.
Oh, you were an eager beaver.
I was an eager beaver. What can I say? And someone back then I talked to had, and I don't even remember their name now, but they had switched their discipline like 4 times or something like that. Wow. And they kept just like doing these, and they'd have to like maybe retake a couple classes or do things like that. So I think they took a little longer. But they were like, no, my advice is to follow what you love now. Don't try and do something and really hold out for the future. It's one thing if you're, almost done, you want to finish and get that degree and then move on. But if you're, doing something you don't like it, just switch it. Yeah. Don't wait for, but I should get this because it'll help me in the future. Yeah. No, you're not gonna have a good time, and you're not gonna learn anything if you're just miserable and keeping yourself miserable.
Yeah.
So just follow what you love now, especially at university. This is such a little, bubble area still.
Yeah, it's a safe space.
It's a safe space, because you can explore like design teams, jobs, but you're still a student, and you're still supported by that, and sort of like kept under this little shelter. So. Especially when you're in university, just explore. Try different things. And if you don't like it, change it. There's so many options. So, that's... Yeah. I feel like I totally went off.
That was...
I don't really know.
I loved it. I loved it. I was like...
I
was like, wow.
You're like absorbing it all in.
Yeah. My brain just sort of went, hey, wrap it up.
No. I literally never wrap it up. I was going to say, I remember in APS 100 that they had a panel of like people that were in engineering that did other things afterwards. And I thought that it was so cool listening to that. I still remember that from first year. That's one of my most vivid memories. Because there was someone there that was in like law. There was someone there that like had written for a TV show. And I was like, oh, this is life. I was like, this is what I could be doing. Like, it was so cool to know all those doors open. I feel like when you're younger, you don't, like, you just know like 5 jobs and you're like, well, I can be one of these. Like, but now I'm like, there's so much out there that it's hard to get that exposure to. And university is the place where you can dip your toes in all these different things and like see what you like, and all of it's going to help you in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
And oh my gosh, another cute little segue. I was gonna say, has there been anyone that's been like very influential in like the things that you've done, or like what you want to do for your like professional development? Just like, is there someone that's like has really influenced you?
That was a good question.
That is a really good question.
Stop it.
Oh my goodness, my heart just started beating really fast.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Like, okay, 1 second.
No. I was gonna say, if this is like, we can circle back. Like, we can also.
Cut it in post. No, that is such a good question. I mean, there've been multiple, because it just depends.
Sure. Yeah, it can be it can be a professor, a friend.
I feel like even like Catherine, who was the first female MD which is music director, sorry,
Yes.
of
Yeah.
Skule Nite Band. She was the music director in my first year in Skule Nite Band. So when I first joined, and I feel like she was really, really influential to me because that was my first exposure to Skule Nite ever.
Yeah.
And she was such a strong leader. And I feel like that was really inspiring to me. And at that time, I didn't know she was the first female MD. I didn't know any of that. I had never had a man as an MD. Like, she was the only one I was exposed to.
Yeah.
And she was so good. And I feel like that was such a nice, like, first year experience. And she was just so professional and yet, like, really close with everyone.
Yeah.
She just built such a good community, and everyone felt really safe. And just, I feel like that was really inspiring. That was one of the things coming as MD now this year that I really wanted to do. I wanted to try and be like her for new people coming in.
Yeah.
Because that was, what she was for me, and it was really nice. It was really nice having that experience. So I feel like she just sort of showed me like what a good leader is, And it's a good balance, having the community, but also still being really professional and doing a really, really good job with everything. So yeah, I feel like she was very influential for sure. Yeah.
I can tell you're in right now, like, you're definitely a good leader.
Yeah.
Just the way that you hold
Stop it.
yourself.
Agreed. Oh, agreed to the power of 10. I feel like you also you're so, I don't know, you're like one of the easiest people to talk to, at least in my.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's such a nice thing to say.
It's so true though. You
my
just, it's so easy to get along with you, and like talking to you is so fun.
I have to say ditto to both of you.
This is why you two are like BFFs. I see it now.
Yeah,
Wow.
you
I see
can
it.
see it.
I
What do you
see
see?
it. I love it.
What do you mean?
Peanut butter and jelly. What can
Oh
I
my
say?
gosh. I was even gonna say, like, you brought something to my mind of like, it's so awesome when you like meet someone, you're like, this is a strong leader.
Yeah.
Or like that you're like, I love this leadership style, because that's such
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like in high school not that I didn't like my high school teachers, I like got along really well with them, but when you see like a student and you're like,
Yeah.
that's someone I like am looking up to,
Yeah.
or like that I look up
And she
to.
was not that, and she's like, for like Catherine, for example, I think she's only like 1 year older than me. Yeah, she's only 1 year. So it's crazy because I was in second year when I joined the Skule Nite Band.
Yeah.
And she was only 1 year older, and she was the music director. And yet she was so poised and just so, like, I still see her as just so much higher. Because
Like,
she was
yeah.
just, like, I saw her and I was like, this is just, like, she's incredible.
Yeah,
and
like,
she's just,
she's
like,
beauty and she's
inspiring.
grace.
She's
Yeah.
everything. And, like, I still get shocked that she's just 1 year older.
Yeah.
Because to have that sort of, that command of people
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like, the respect, like, that was just, like, yeah, it was so it's sort of crazy to have that experience, like you said, because you
Yeah.
see teachers and stuff, and there's sort of leadership roles where it's more built into the role itself. Someone's
yeah,
significantly older and they have a job versus like a student, and it's sort of already built into the structure. But when
Yeah.
it's all students, it's totally different to be
yeah.
inspired by a student leader versus, someone who's in an actual job.
I literally couldn't agree more. I feel that every single second in Skule Nite, like all of the directors that I've encountered, like Stephanie, Jack, like Sophia, like I was so blown away. I remember meeting them and just like immediately almost being like a little starstruck, just because they're like you said, like they're all so poised and like know what they're doing, but able to like be like make you feel comfortable and like and they know how to they know what to say to make you thrive, which is such an important quality as a leader. I feel like that's like how do you even access that as a person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Were you
No,
gonna...
no, I was
Oh,
just
okay.
agreeing
Yeah.
with you. Keep
Yeah.
going.
Just agreeing.
Agreeing.
She was like, no.
It's a big yes.
Agreeing loudly.
I was here for you. But no, yeah. I just think that and then you're right. Like you almost like you're like, wow, I want to be able to be at a place where I can be like this for other people.
You know what's actually crazy though? In my first year on UTAT, I started on UTAT rocketry. And I was just like, I actually did a bit of business development in first year just because like a spot opened up and I helped with that. But I was doing more technical stuff. But I remember there were a couple different guys on the team. Basically, there was a man who was insane on UTAT rocketry who was doing crazy stuff.
Yes.
And I was talking to this one guy and I was like, oh yeah, it's crazy. And this one guy was like just super impressed and like, I want to be like him and all this stuff. And then I remember I went to the guy, this sort of crazy Fortran guy, and I told him that. And I was like, oh yeah, like I was just talking to my buddy about this. Like, you're so inspiring and you're so smart. He was like, what, really? I think there's this other guy who's higher than him. And he's like, he's like that. Like, I want to be like him. And it just made me realize that there's sort of like this spectrum, and everyone exists, you know, on this, and you have people that really inspire you and that you look up to, and you're that for someone else.
Oh.
And like it's kind of crazy just realizing that. You know?
I've seen like I'll say it on Instagram. I've seen on Instagram like so many times.
I read an article.
Yeah, me being like, I read an article. But it was just like there you will never know the number of like unknown admirers that of just like little things. It could even just be like the way you like talk to others or the like the little things you do. And I thought that's such a beautiful sentiment. It's such a wonderful idea that like there's little things that you do that people could just admire so much about you, and you'll never know, but it's like it's there, like it's in the background. And I think like kind of like taking a second to like remember that it does kind of make you, I don't know, it makes you almost appreciate yourself a little more, because you're like, because everyone's unique in their own way, number one, and someone like someone wants to learn something from you. Like I think everyone has something to teach. Like that's why I love the idea of university and meeting all these different people, because you can learn something from anyone, and you're getting to like meet all these different communication styles and like leadership styles and like student leadership styles. And I feel like that's the best part about university, that like you get that exposure, you know? Oh, for sure. Yeah. But no, another fun little crazy thing I was gonna say. I mean, your boss gave you that. I know, fun little crazy thing isn't a regular question. Of course. Yeah, I know your boss said like to like maybe like, oh, I don't know if this was, you were saying how like you don't have to say anything sometimes. That sometimes you can just. And is that like, so you could just, but would you say that's like the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? Or do you have like, this is the best piece of advice I've ever received? Oh, I know that's also a hefty one. Yeah, like there's so many pieces of advice just in all fronts. Yeah. Like that's definitely a big one, because that was a big shift that like, was really way useful of thinking, that I saw, where it was like, okay, if I'm quiet, I'm being quiet in this meeting. Oh, people are actually responding very well to it, especially in a professional setting. Yeah. But I mean, it's different depending on different settings then. For sure. But I don't even know, like, advice other than that. And then the one about changing, not being afraid to change. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other good advice I've gotten in careers, or it can even be like in life. Yeah, like even just in general, like advice from Katie is that if you're interested in lots of different things, it's actually like, it's definitely worthwhile to do things that are opposite. Because I remember I sort of had a lot of moments, especially coming into engineering, where I thought, you know, like we talk about intersectionality and sort of supporting both sides of things, like arts and engineering and different disciplines as well. But also just like accepting that you can do things that are very different. Yeah. So I remember people said, oh, so you like music and you like engineering. Do you want to be a sound engineer? I was like, not really. Yeah. I want to play music and I want to study like aerospace engineering and like mechanical engineering, but I don't want to be like I don't want to put them together. I just want to do that and also do that. And I think that it's really good to do both, and people will be impressed in both fields. Like, it's actually interesting, because then you do engineering jobs and people say, oh wow, like you're a musician, you're an artist, you're an actor, whatever. And they're really impressed by that, because you have such a different thing and it makes you stand out. And then in the opposite side as well, you go, you know, I've done like short films and things, and when you're applying, you're auditioning for things, and you say, oh, I'm actually doing an engineering degree right now. They're like, what? Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. You're smart. Like oh my God, it's insane. And it's just because you're doing like an engineering degree. Or like it's really not that exciting, but okay. But doing even just very different things, it's still very useful. And I feel like a lot of people try to, you know, sort of push against that, especially when I was younger, where it's, you know, people try and force you into sort of one thing, you know? Yeah. If you're doing engineering, you're doing engineering, and anything else is like related to that. It's like, you know, yeah, you're going to do sound engineering if you're going to do music. But you can do things that are completely unrelated. Yeah. And it's fine. And things will always become either even just like as a resume thing. Oh, I also do acting. Oh my God, that's so cool. And it sounds cool, and that's it. But even just like the skills that you pick up,
nothing is ever wasted. When you're learning things, you're always gonna learn. When you're learning things, you're always gonna learn.
And that's the truth.
If you're learning, you're gonna learn.
Yeah.
And that's my advice. But if you're learning things, they're always gonna be useful.
Yes.
So whatever you learn, you're learning something in engineering. Maybe you're not gonna be using like Laplace transforms as a film director.
I'm like, oh.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, you're not gonna be literally using those, but it's even just learning how to learn, and just how to absorb information, how to adapt to different situations. I mean, even over the course of our undergrad, we had a global pandemic. Like, you never know what's gonna happen. Like, this,
literally.
Like,
That was so
it's
weird.
crazy.
You said the sentence, and I still don't like register it as like as big of a thing as it was.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because you were
Yeah.
just at home.
Because I was like,
It's like, oh yeah, that like year and a half where I was in my room.
yeah.
But it's you
Definitely.
never know, and everything that happens to you is gonna be it's a learning experience, and it's gonna be useful at some point for some reason.
Yeah.
And it's never wasted. So I feel like don't stress about that. If you're doing engineering and you're like, oh, I actually want to go into the arts. Who cares?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's not about, things are gonna come back, and it's still gonna be useful. Nothing is wasted. So
Yeah.
that's just my general
Oh my god,
advice.
I love it.
That's
No,
perfect.
I was even gonna say like that's also a great mindset for people to have that are starting out on this journey, on this like professional development journey, because you don't have to know, like, even when you go to career fairs, so to speak, like you can talk to, like, you can be like, okay, I want to talk to like this company for sure, but there can also be like different types of companies that you talk to. Like, it's okay to like want to like try different things and like speak to different people, because how else are you gonna know that you like it, or that if you're like, I feel like I struggle a lot with knowing, like, I know, like, when you're good at something, you're like, let's do it. Like, I want to do it right now, but it's hard to get to that point if you aren't trying new things.
Yep.
So literally,
and you don't have to do things that you're really good at. Like, you can do things that you're bad at, and it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I feel like because things get narrowed down as you grow up, you get narrowed down to the things that you're really good at. It's like, okay, so you're doing this sport and you're playing this instrument. You're not that great at the sport, so you're going to have to cut that out at a certain point to focus on this. Right? Because, like, things become too much.
You're right.
Yes.
And that happens naturally, and that's totally okay, but then I feel like you have to have a point where you can come back around. And I feel like I'm starting to get there, where it's like, oh, you could do, like, intramural, like, sports leagues and things. Like, there's things you can do. Like, you don't have to, or even just, like if you used to run, you can just, like, go for runs. You don't have to be fast. You don't have to go far. Like, there's things you can do, and you can do a bad job, and it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Why did that, like, make me a little emotional? Like, you can go for a run. You don't have to be fast. You don't have to go far. But you can run. I feel like that could be like, okay, guys, we're going to put that on loop. That's going to be our motivational.
That's the subtitle of my biopic.
For you, is that running or?
I honestly, I said that and I was like, I haven't been running in a really long time.
You're like,
No,
oh no,
okay.
I'm
my
fast.
advice. I don't follow it.
You've been busy though.
This is true. I did like I feel like I did a lot of stuff that I was kind of bad at growing up, and I think that was good for me personally. Like, I was on like a track team, and there are a bunch of people who got like scholarships in the States for like running who were on the team with me, and I was not anywhere near that level. So I would do races, like I remember doing like a cross country race in the snow. Oh my god, which is awful. And I remember coming last. Like, I fully came last.
Yeah, because you probably stopped and you were like, so
I was
cold.
freezing.
Like, I would have been like,
but I mean, I finished, and like,
and that's all that matters.
and I feel like, and I did that a lot. Like, I was not good at it, so like I kind of picked it back up in university. I still like have it every once in a while. I'll go for a run and stuff. And yeah, I'm not fast, but it's like it doesn't matter. No one cares.
Yeah.
And it's good to do things you're bad at.
And I feel like what gets a lot of, or at least what I felt in first year, was I was constantly comparing myself.
Yeah.
So even if I was like not the best at something, or if I was like mediocre, I was like, no, this is bad compared to like X or compared to Y.
So I should just not do it.
So I should. So yeah, like if and honestly, sorry. I remember in grade 7, my grade 7 teacher, who was like also like one of my absolute mentors, Mr. Yarrow, I love you, but he's probably not gonna watch this. But I was gonna say is like he said, there's always gonna be someone better at you, better than you in something. You have to do things for yourself. Yeah. And I think like in grade 7, I didn't grasp that. I didn't really get it. I was like, okay, that was kind of mean. I was like, anyway,
you telling me that I'm bad?
Yeah. I was like, that was kind of rude because I went to an arts elementary school as well, right? So but I would like I don't know. Anyway, but what he was like, what I now understand is that like you can't compare your chapter 2 to someone's chapter 10. Like everyone is at different like levels and no literally like everyone's at different levels and you have different exposure to different things like even coming in for first year I did not learn anything about matrices. Some people did, and like that made me feel silly because I was like, oh no, I don't know this. It's just about like everyone's at a different place, and like that's why I love saying like I only like to compare myself to myself because if I see self-improvement, like that's all you can ask for, right? Like you can't like take someone else's life and be like, well, I need to get to that level. Like, no, you need to do what's best for you because maybe like something else is in the cards for you. Yeah. Like, you know?
I just remembered, oh my gosh, this is, and now it's getting to Steph and Katie talking.
Oh, I love it.
No, I love it.
I'm like, oh my God, I thought of something else. Just like advice stuff and talking about that and like comparing yourself. Yeah. Another thing, this was again in first year UTAT in rocketry. Yeah. It was not even someone telling this to me. I was overhearing a conversation that 2 guys were having that were in the computer lab, also in rocketry. They were talking loudly. It wasn't a secret.
But I wasn't easdropping.
I wasn't eavesdropping, to be clear.
Anyone can hear it.
Yeah, everyone was listening. But it was a really sweet conversation. It was a couple guys who were both in mechanical engineering. And this was before I was in Mech, so like who
maybe
knew?
It influenced it a little bit.
Maybe it influenced me. But one of them was older and was talking about how, you know, he would get a lot of help from this one guy in his class, and he would always help him for coding, and he would help him like study all the time, and they'd work like on weekends. He'd like send him his code and explain everything to him about like how to do things, and he'd like carried him through this whole course. Yeah. And the other guy was like, oh my God, see, you know, that's great, and I would love for like friends to help me, but I just feel bad because I can never help them with anything. Like they're always better than me like at every subject. So like it's because you hear a lot of people, it's like, oh, you know, you can help someone in one subject, they can help you in another. Yeah. And he was like, but I'm not. He was like, what did you do? Did you help him in another? And the other guy went like, no, I was just his friend, and I would just like talk to him about stuff. So he would just help me. Like I would take him for bubble tea, and we'd just have like life chats, and he would help me with coding. And it was like, oh.
Why am I tearing up?
It doesn't have to be transactional.
I was listening to this and I was honestly tearing up. Yeah, it doesn't have to be transactional.
I couldn't agree more.
If you're a kind person and you're honest with people, you know, people can help you out. If something's easy for someone, like, let them help you. Yeah. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be the best. You can be literally the worst in your friend group at every subject. Yeah. But if you're friendly to people and like you ask for help and you're genuine and you want to learn, you're not just trying to sort of like mooch off of someone, you know, constantly, then like people recognize that and people will be helpful. And that was something that was really sweet that I heard. He was like, oh, so what did you offer him? I was like, nothing. You're like, no. I was just his friend. And that's it.
I even feel like not the concept, but the act of accepting help is also like a hurdle that some people have to kind of jump over. Yeah. Like for me, I was someone who like from first year and still in fourth year, like I go to every office hour. Yeah. I go to every office hour because understanding is like a big hurdle for me. Yeah. Because in classes, like I feel like I haven't learned the skill of writing down and listening. I'm still working on it.
Me neither.
I'm still trying to work on it. Got another semester.
It's one or the other. I'm either writing or I'm listening.
I'm either writing or I'm listening, and I can't then that's why I have no storage on my phone because I'm always taking pictures of the board. But anyway,
I see it now. Yeah. I see it. I understand.
But no,
makes sense.
I was gonna say I think like for me the concept of like accepting help, I was like, oh, I wanted immediately, like I was okay, but I remember meeting people who were like, it was really hard for me to come to this office hour because for some people it's like there's a barrier to that. It's like, oh my goodness, I have like going there is not. I don't know if you want to speak to that, like.
Office hours I'm like kind of okay with because it's one-on-one with the teacher. But as soon as other students are there, I'm absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before. I'm scared of asking questions in class, saying my thoughts, participating because I don't want people to think that I'm stupid.
Yeah.
And I think that's mostly like a thing that I think about in myself, that like my question is stupid or I can just figure this out on my own.
Yeah.
And it's not like I don't want to accept help, but I don't want to admit to people that I don't know the answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, I admire
for
people who
sure.
can do that. Like, I just can't.
I'm so serious right now. In the first 2 weeks of this September, I was like, I feel like it's also like we haven't been in person school in 2.5 years, right? So like I was like, I'm not asking questions. Like that could not be me.
Yeah.
And this last week of September, I was like, kidding. And I just kept. I just started putting my hand up because I was like, I chose to be like, I get to be in the seat. I get to be like sitting in this class, and like I think my question could help other people. And like, yeah, are you kidding?
And it does.
All my questions are probably silly, and even like sometimes I'm raising my hand and I'm asking. I know Katie's in a lot of my classes, but thanks, Katie.
She knows.
But I'm raising my hand and maybe like 5-6 times a class, and like, does that in my head? Do I get a little nervous? Absolutely. The way I phrase questions, I'm like, where is this going? But I'm confused. I'm like, I don't know where it's going. But I still am like, I don't know. And like, what's the, because for me, I like, if I don't get something, I get stuck on it. And in class, I won't pay attention the rest of the time because I'm still trying to understand that thing from 10 minutes in. So like, I was like, you know what? I need to kind of like just go for it. And then, if I still don't get it, then I will go to an office hour. Then I'll like, but I try to like, because like you said, like, I feel that I am a pretty outgoing person. I think a lot of people that know me would agree with that. And so like, if I feel capable to do that, like that's going to help other people. And like, why not? Like, I'm a silly goose already. Like, might as well raise my hand. I was like,
honestly. And the thing is like, because the worst thing that happens is the class goes slower. So the people who already know this stuff and who understand everything, maybe the worst thing is for them is they're a little bored. Maybe they're like, oh, this is going so slowly. I'm bored.
Wow.
This is annoying. But in the other case, if they're caught up and they're going at their speed and they're comfortable, then there's people who just fully aren't learning and aren't understanding.
Yes.
So like, what's better, you know?
Yeah,
that more
that's
people
true.
actually understand and a few people are a bit bored.
Yeah.
Or that those people who are learning everything fast are just going through it, and there's people who just fully aren't learning things and have to like constantly retake courses and constantly or just barely pass and not properly learn anything and get nothing out of, you know, their degree. So like that's the trade-off, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what would you rather? You know, some people are a bit bored. Who cares?
Yeah.
They can go on their phone.
gosh.
They can doodle.
I don't think
Whatever.
there's ever been a second during the school year I've been bored. I can confidently
neither.
say I am never bored during the school year. I'm always doing something.
Yeah.
I was even like saying earlier to like my lab partner, I was like, I have every minute planned for the next week. There is not. I have everything in there. Brushing my hair, 5:25 to 5:27. Like
Plan my outfit.
you have to dedicate minutes to that. But no, like I definitely agree that like there isn't a downside. Like
No.
you're always like you're,
But it's still
you're bettering
hard.
the group. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Doesn't mean that
definitely.
it's easy.
Oh yeah. It's easier to not ask the question.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is. No,
right?
even in meetings, I don't say anything if I'm too scared.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, you're just expressing an idea. They could say the idea is stupid, but I'm literally just like, nope, don't say it. It's better to just stay quiet. They have a better idea anyways. I'm like, okay, cool.
I feel like it's also a note that whenever I'm in meetings and I do hear someone like say something or whatever, I always am like, I hype them up to the max because like sometimes taking that step is really hard. So like you got to encourage that. Like when I feel like whenever I see it happen, I'm like, oh my God, that was so like, you know, like you want to like, I don't know. I feel like that's like really important that like as like groups, as peers, so to speak, that like, you know, like you lift up other people as well, because like you don't know who needs it at a certain time. And like saying one thing like, that's a great idea, or like, I love it in class. I love it when like people I know or friends near me get the question right. I'm like, oh my God, that was amazing. Yeah. And that one little thing could like make their day. You know what I mean? Like you don't know, but it's so fun to like hype people up.
You are very good at doing that.
It's such a fun thing to do.
And it's great. And if you're confident enough to do that, then do that for people.
Yeah.
And you won't always get it back. You might not ever get it back, but like it's still worth it to just like do that for other people. Another thing with asking questions, over my PUI, I had another supervisor who ended up going to another company sort of halfway through. But I worked more closely with her for like at least the first half of my PUI. So she was kind of more my direct supervisor. And she was great. And she didn't have an engineering background. And she was in a project management role. Mm-hmm. So having her as my like supervisor and seeing her lead meetings, I remember there would be so many technical terms that I would hear in these meetings, and I would just sort of note down and be like, oh my God, I have to search this up after. I don't know what this is. And I'd be kind of lost and not sure what people were saying. But then she would always ask, like, engineers would be talking about stuff, and she would go, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. And
that'd be so awesome to see.
Oh, that's okay. You can ask that? Like, she was literally such a high position, but she's like, I don't even know what that term is.
Yeah.
And they'd explain it. And I was like, oh, I guess, you don't have to, you can just be confident about how you ask it.
Yeah.
You're going to need to explain what that means. I don't know what that is. And that's okay. You have a different role.
Yeah.
It's not, and it never felt like a person who didn't know enough or something. Like, it always was just, you need to fill me in because I'm in a different position. It just never felt like a weird power thing or like someone was missing knowledge. It was just, hey, you need to fill me in on this. I don't know what that means.
Oh my gosh, I wish I saw more of that in my PY. That would have made me feel so. I feel like specifically in work environments, you feel like you do. Yeah. Professionalism is knowing everything, which is impractical.
Not at all.
What does that? How is that possible? As an intern joining a company, like no. But I would do meeting notes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would be like,
Google this after.
What is this? I know, like and like they're speaking so fast, right? Because they're at a pace where they're like, these are our meetings, but you're like, oh dear. But yeah, so now. That's so good to know. I like, and then when you get to be in positions like that, like you can again like do just the
ask
same,
questions.
Ask questions.
What does that mean? Or even just sometimes it was just, can you type that in the chat? I just don't even know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't even tell because it's the name of some term or the name of some company and you've never heard it before. You're just not even sure how to spell it. You know? Can you type that in the chat?
And engineers can't spell, so this is all perfect.
And when instead of having meeting notes where you have some weird phonetic description of what it is,
you're like
Skule.
Skule.
Trying to put like the context to help you Google it later. Yeah. But that was really, seeing her was really helpful. Just to remember that you're not supposed to know everything.
Oh, absolutely.
You just have to be willing to ask.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Oh my goodness.
Get over that little hump that I have.
I was even gonna say, like, first off, oh my gosh, I think this has been a lovely conversation. I think we might be nearing the last one. This is our final cut, so to speak. Our last question is, what is a question that you wish we'd ask?
Ooh.
And how would you have answered it?
Yes.
Oh, it could be anything, by the way. It could be informal. It could be like, you didn't ask me what my favorite color is, and that was horrible.
And that was pretty rude.
Yeah.
Ooh, a good question that you didn't ask. Maybe like, oh my God, this is so hard to think.
I know, it can be anything. You can like take
this
a minute.
So
you can like think about it.
Yeah, practice my silence right
now.
I was like, should we practice?
Just. I feel like maybe even just asking about an outside of uni experience, something like that, like something more outside the box.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be
added.
What's the most adventurous thing you've done?
Ooh, adventurous. I wow, this is bad.
I went. Can I say that on a podcast?
Yeah. Well, it depends. There's different categories. Most adventurous thing I've done, I guess like. I feel like this is such a basic answer. I went like coasteering in England one time, which is like you go out and you sort of like swim through caves and like. Rock
very
climbing.
basic. I do that on Sundays.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even know what that was.
I feel like that was like a big one. That was like
so
pretty
cool.
exciting. And it was like kind of scary.
That is so cool.
But it was really fun. I feel like that was like an adventurous thing that I just kind of did like off the cuff. Like I was just there and like my cousin and I would just like went and did that.
Wow.
And that was pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you just go to England or did you like do a Europe trip?
That was an England trip. I did like a road trip around. I used to do a few of those because I have a lot of family in England. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I used to do some trips when I was younger there, and that was one of them. And that was pretty exciting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
a hot new bombshell has entered the villa. I'm so excited.
KE22.
KE22. But no, I guess like final remarks. Just I'll get as always. It's so lovely talking to you. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. It was so nice. This was so much fun.
I was having a good time.
Yeah, it was such a good time. It's so nice talking to both of you. You're so lovely.
Thank you so much.
I've been on a roller coaster of emotions. I feel like I've traveled through my entire undergrad. I'm like,
and we've summarized
unhatching things that I didn't remember were in my brain.
Oh my goodness. And that's what you do when you're on the YNCN podcast.
Yeah, everything just gets it's a tell-all.
Absolutely.
It really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
But no, we'll hang.
Uh-oh.
The way my brain
it's
turned
falling
off.
apart. Oh god.
No. But yeah, just again, thank you for coming, and thank you guys for listening.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
This has been the Katie Stevens podcast.
Outro song. You're next.
You're next. Oh.
You're next.
You're next.